So I'm listening to an interview with James Mangold on Rolling Stone Music Now podcast. I have been a subscriber to Rolling Stone since I was 13 years old. I got a subscription gift for my bar mitzvah, and then my parents got me like a lifetime subscription, which is like really cheap a couple of years later. So for like 30 years or 30-something years, I kept getting Rolling Stone in the mail. I'm like, okay, cool, Rolling Stone, it's free. Now, the magazine's good. Like, I wouldn't keep paying for it if I didn't get it for free, but I'm like, all right, cool. It had some really good stuff in it. And then I get an email going, we are converting all our lifetime subscribers to PDF only. So I'm like, okay. And when I get something in PDF, I'm like, I'm old school. I like, feeling something when I read it. I read a lot of shit on my phone. Don't get me wrong. I read a lot of news on my phone and I scroll and all that, but like a book or a magazine, I don't know. I still very much prefer it. I wish I can still subscribe to hard copy paper. It's just too expensive. So, I subscribe to The Guardian, subscribe to reliable news sources that don't try to mess you up with the propaganda. That's one of the reasons we're in the place we're in this country. So get a credible news source. I'm going all over the place. I haven't had my coffee. So I'm listening to Mangold talking about the Dylan biopic, A Complete Unknown, which I saw last night. I made the mistake. I was, going to a movie theater, and I didn't think, it's a Saturday night. Let me get tickets in advance. I was going to go see Nosferatu. So this is rare. There are two movies that I really want to see both in the theaters at once. Usually I'm like, I'll wait till I get on streaming or whatever. But this, I'm like, let me go see Nosferatu. I was so pumped to see Nosferatu. I get to the movie theater and it's sold out. I'm like, no, just, again, old school. Let me just go to the movie theater and pick up a ticket. So the next option was A Complete Unknown. It was like an hour later, so I waited an hour. Thankfully, I had my phone with something to read. And I see the movie. I like Bob Dylan. I don't love him. With that said, he has some of the best songs ever written. Whether it's Like a Rolling Stone, which is probably my favorite of his, but Blowing in the Wind, just the Masters of War. God on Their Side is really, Hey Mr. Tambourine Man, Hard Rain's Gonna Fall. Like, forget it. Like, I'm watching the movie, I'm crying during the movie because the songs are so beautiful. And the movie overall was okay. It was good. Like, Dylan's such a fascinating character. And Timothée Chalamet, the acting was amazing. Timothée Chalamet was excellent. He captured the essence of Dylan without doing an imitation of him, which is very, very hard to do. He kind of looked like him. He did look like him. Not exactly, but, who looks exactly like anyone, really? And I've watched Dylan interviews and some concerts. I've watched the Scorsese documentary. I believe it's called Don't Look Back, which was excellent. You don't have to be a Dylan fan to enjoy it. It can make you an even bigger Dylan fan. The greatest part was when, and I think the movie covers again the essence of this well, and this is kind of going to go into the point of this podcast. It captures the essence of the time well where Dylan is changing. He's changing into electric, and he's going against, the establishment of folk music. Going, you're not supposed to do this, you're supposed to do this. And Dylan's like, well, I want to do this. I'm really catching this vibe here, and it's really exciting what's going on. So it captured it well, and one of my favorite parts, the favorite part of Don't Look Back, and I have it screenshotted on my phone, where it shows the scene in Don't Look Back where he's at the folk festival and someone in the crowd calls him Judas. And he goes, I don't believe you. And it didn't happen at the folk festival. It happened somewhere else. I forgot where. It might have been in Europe somewhere. And someone calls him, and in this footage you see Dylan before going on stage, and he's getting ready, and then he goes to the crowd before he even plays a lick. And I sound like I'm talking from the 60s, a lick, you jive cat. Before he even plays a lick, someone in the crowd yells, Judas! And Dylan goes, I don't believe you. Now, the movie showed it in the festival. Dylan said, I don't believe you. And then he pauses and he goes, you're a liar, like that. And then this is the best part. He turns around to his band. They're all plugged in. They're all got electric shit going on. And then he says, play it fucking loud. And they kick into Like a Rolling Stone. Holy shit. I have the screenshot of the subtitle of Dylan saying, play it fucking loud on my phone. I look at it for inspiration. So the movie, so it seems like that. Again, Timothée Chalamet, excellent. All the other actors I thought were excellent. I don't have the names in front of me because I'm a terrible person. Barbaro, the actress who played Joan Baez, fantastic. I don't know if that was her voice, if Chalamet was his voice. It looked like Chalamet was actually playing the guitar, which is, Dylan is a great guitarist. It's not easy to do. He had time, Chalamet, to kind of learn. I think the production was shut down by COVID, so he had time to kind of learn, I guess, more into Dylan. But I forgot her first name, but Barbara was incredible as Joan Baez, and all the other actors were great. The guy who played Johnny Cash was really good. It was funny, So biopics, and Mangold has said this. He said, "I don't want this to turn into the Disney automatronics and people doing imitations of it. It's an amalgam of things. It's a combination of things, in order to save time to put things together." While I thought the movie was good, I always think the real life of someone, especially as enigmatic as Dylan, is much better than any composite that a biopic can put together. It really is. And it's hard to get accurate even with that, even with the best documentaries, because there's so many different factors. The people have different memories and different stories. The person might not want to divulge certain things, which is understandable, especially someone like Dylan. I think he would try to throw people off sometimes. However, I would love to see a movie, a biopic, that is accurate, that does follow, the true stories instead of putting things together, or instead of just making things up out of thin air. Because I always find that more fascinating, which draws you to the real people. It was the same thing with the Queen biopic, and I love Queen. They're one of my favorite bands. I saw it with my brother when it came out, and we were like, well, this, and my brother and I are, we know a bit about the years and the albums and all these things and what happened when, and we're like, well, this didn't happen, this didn't happen, and it took us out. And it's like, well, where's the infighting that happened? Where's the tension? It was almost Disneyfied. Like, Sacha Baron Cohen wanted to play Freddie Mercury, and he wanted to get into the darker side of him. And, I believe the band or the production company or put the kibosh on it, because it's like, well, who wants to see that? And I don't want to see only that. I want to see a full person. So it's kind of, going back to A Complete Unknown. When it comes to biopics, I would love to have seen the actual story of Dylan and his relationships with the Sylvie, who is based on Susie Rotolo. This person, Susie Rotolo, you didn't see it in the movie, but apparently she had a profound impact on Dylan, just like Baez did, which the movie illustrates a little better. But Sylvie, just the influence she had on him with politics and activism. And hearing this interview with Mangold from Rolling Stone, according to Mangold, I don't know if he's heard this from Dylan, because I think he has a close relationship with Dylan. Dylan, to this day, Rotolo died, and I hope I'm pronouncing the name right, she died in 2014. And Dylan, even after her death, is very, very protective of her. You know, they met each other before Dylan broke. So, you know, I guess according to him, there wasn't any ulterior motive. She actually liked him for him as opposed to the celebrity. And Mangold claims that Dylan, this action to not have, you know, a character named Susie Rotolo was to protect her. So understandably so, and a very, you know, gracious thing and nice thing for Dylan to do, especially if he wants to protect her. And at the same time, I wish they would have shown the actual influence she had on him, because the role kind of looked like, well, you know, she's his girlfriend and she doesn't want to be with him, and she wants, you know, a commitment, and she's someone in and out of his life. You know, and the character was fine. Elle Fanning was really good. I just wish, because that really, it would have been cool if there was just a movie on that relationship, because that relationship seemed fascinating. Not only with the relationship with Sylvie, but the relationship with Baez. How the tension they had and how they played off each other through their music and performing together. And then there's clips on, of course, on the internet of them talking to each other, and they're talking about, you know, how Dylan at the time was married, and he said, I married the love of my life. And she said, you know, I married the person who I thought was the love of my life. And then, like, it's a very endearing conversation. Dylan seems very anxious. Baez doesn't seem anxious. She's just kind of in control and kind of like jabbing him a little bit. But then she said, I married the man I thought I loved. And Dylan pauses and says something like, that is, thought will fuck you up, like that. So I wish it would have went a little more into that. What I did enjoy, if you're a Bob Dylan fan, one, I love when you watch a movie and it's, you know, so you see someone actually playing the instrument, someone's actual voice. I understand they can't sing every single take, so the movie showed that, and the movie really told the story through the music. It's not like clips of songs. You would hear like whole songs, and you would see whole songs during shows to tell the story, to get the essence. And with the biopics, the essence and vibe becomes the movie and the story, and it makes it immersive. So, I mean, I really enjoy that. Like I said, I was crying throughout the movie. I wear a mask still, and listen, I'm in New York. I'm in New York City. All the things are still fucking going around, RSV, COVID, all that. When I can, when on the subway, in the movie theater, I wear a mask. If I go to a restaurant, I'm not going to wear a mask because you can't eat with a mask on. But I do my best to wear a mask as much as I can. And I'm like crying, I'm getting the mask wet and shit. So it's one of the reasons I love music. It helps me feel. I tend not to feel when I don't have music on, or movies, or even books. It helps me feel, and when you feel things, you tend to feel better. If you hold stuff in, whether you're knowing it or not, other stuff tends to come around and distract you from those feelings. You know, that's my social worker hat that I'm putting on. I really loved Edward Norton as Pete Seeger. Pete Seeger, just, you know, he again captured the vibe and the essence without doing an imitation of him. And just, you listen to interviews with him, and he had that, like, Mr. Rogers, just very comforting kind of person, but, like, really stood up and was an activist and really stood up for what is right. I don't know that much about Woody Guthrie or their relationships, but the fact, you know, he died the way he did is just terrible, especially back then. I mean, it's not like it's good to have what he had now, but just to sit there, just terrible. But, so yeah, rolling back to the point of this. Does this even have a point? I don't know. With biopics, I would love to see the accuracy, the actual person's life. You think of a movie like Amadeus, that this movie's kind of been compared to a little bit. Like, basically, the movie is awesome. I loved it. But I saw the movie before I learned anything about Mozart. The movie has nothing to do with Mozart. it's not that true. It's using, you know, the Mozart name, and some stuff is true, but there's a lot of it that is just not. And if you go, I saw the movie really before I knew that much about Mozart, and I believed the movie because I was a kid when I saw it, you know? So I wish there was like something to put before the movie, some kind of disclaimer going, listen, a lot of this isn't true. And The Doors, oh my God, the Doors movie. Like, I loved it when it first came out, and I think it's well made, but that's not the real Jim Morrison. That's not that is a sliver of what his life was like. But not the whole person. And the guys in the band were really mad when that movie came out because it's like, well, this didn't happen. This isn't us. Now people are going to think that that things like this actually happened. So I would love to see something on Jim Morrison and Jimi Hendrix, all the legend, all of them for that matter, what their lives were. You know, whether it's their whole life or a portion of their life, I want to see it as accurately as you can. And it's tough because whether it's the estates or whether it's the real life people, they're like, well, I got some terrible shit in my life that I don't want people to know about, so nope. Putting the kibosh on that, no. Again, understandable. You know, and then even after the person dies, there's still people, you know, controlling the image and the legacy and all of that. So yeah, I hope. You know, there's been a lot of Dylan movies out, whether it's a documentary, there's the movie I'm Not There, I think it's called, which I haven't seen. It shows like Christian Bale and Cate Blanchett and a lot of different people playing Dylan. It shows a little boy playing Dylan, all the different iterations of Dylan throughout his life, and again, it's a representation of him. I'd be interested in seeing that, especially if the music is involved. Todd Haynes did it. I believe he did Velvet Goldmine, which is a fantastic movie. The cool part about Velvet Goldmine is that it is based on David Bowie's relationship with Lou Reed and Iggy Pop, but it doesn't. The character's name isn't David Bowie. The Ewan McGregor's character's name isn't Iggy Pop. But if you know anything about David Bowie and Iggy Pop, it's like, oh my God, this is David Bowie. This is Iggy Pop. But it is a representation of them without actually using the real names. Now, it could inspire you to get to know the real life David Bowie and Iggy Pop. So that's more of a movie and less of a biopic, because it's fiction, but really, 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 really draws from the actual real life people, which I think is more of a balance as opposed to, this is Bob Dylan, I'm slapping the name on it, and that's what it's going to be, because people tend to believe what they see, fortunately or unfortunately, when it comes to something fictional, and that'll be carried over. So someone who may want to know who the real life Sylvie was, it's not a true representation of Susie Rotolo. So in order, I think, as more of a protection of their legacy, because people are going to Google shit, you know, about who's this based on. I did. I think a better way to protect is to show, you know, as much as you can or as much as you're comfortable with, the real person and all the barriers and progress of their life, all the ups and downs that made them who they are, their environment that shaped them, their genetics that shaped them to a certain extent. It's a combination of genetics, environment, and what they experience throughout the life. As well as, you know, I would imagine Dylan with natural talent. He said he never had lessons, which I've seen, you know, in so many musicians I follow. They just kind of pick up a guitar and they know how to play it. But then there are other musicians that are like, I didn't know anything, and I really had to work at it. So people are different in how they use that and how they use it to bring out, you know, their art into the world that can help us feel, help bring us together, and hopefully agree on something, at least for that 2 hours. And at the same time, I also hope expressing values that I agree with. You know, someone could be the greatest musician in the world, but they start fucking, you know, talking about Republicans and Trump and the right wing and all this bullshit, literal bullshit. Well, not actual literal bullshit, because that would bull has to go by. But lies and propaganda, I don't care how good a musician you are, it's hard for me to follow, at least these days. So anyway, all right, it is time to have my coffee. So it's good talking to you all. I don't upload these things as often as I used to. It's life gets in the way sometimes, but I'm going to try to get the motoring a little bit more. All right, send me an email if you want to. You can like and subscribe. Sure, send me an email if you want. MMAmpodcast@gmail.com, and follow wherever I post. All right, later.